one. Really, Jordan? Really? That's not a Pentax K-01. Granted, it's a very talented facsimile, obviously covering up your Panasonic S1H, which you love. We promised them a K-01. You go get the K-01 from the car. That's ridiculous, man.
Jordan here to let you know that yes, we did shoot this episode on a Pentax K-01, but we also made the mistake of plugging our mics straight into the camera, and I don't know if the preamp is incredibly sensitive or we have a defective unit, but this is what the audio wound up sounding like.
Welcome back, Deep Review TV viewers. It's Chris Nichols here.
So we didn't want to subject you to that, so what we've done instead is we've decided to redub the audio so you get the full bad dub on an Iron Chef episode experience. It's far preferable to listening to the clipped audio, and don't worry, we switch over to external recording very quick in this episode. Enjoy!
Welcome back, Deep Review TV viewers. It's Chris Nichols here. A gorgeous day today. It is above freezing. Water can actually revert to its liquid form. It's almost t-shirt weather. Look, no toque. You can see that here. We've got a very interesting lens to play with today. We got the brand new Sigma 28-70 2.8 DG DN. This is for both Sony E mount and L mount, and it is adorable. And I say that because this lens is very small and compact. 67mm filter thread, 474 grams, which is like 0.02 pounds. Pretty incredible. They do say that it's the world's smallest 20-70 2.8 full frame mirrorless lens, but before you get too excited, keep in mind the Tamron is also very small, basically the same dimensions, slightly heavier, but it's a 28-75, so technicalities. Jordash, I mean, that takes me back to my childhood, dude.
That takes me back to my childhood, too. I got called that all the time in school.
So this lens is obviously aimed at people that want a 2.8 zoom, but they want it as light and compact as possible. Does that mean it compromises to build quality? To some degree, yes. Keep in mind that I have no problem with plastic, but this lens is mostly polycarbonate construction. The lens mount is metal, and the mount itself is weather sealed, but the body of the lens is not weather sealed, which in my opinion basically means it's not weather sealed. I will say though that it has a really nice well-dampened zoom ring and manual focus ring. There's no OIS, no lens-based image stabilization, so all you have here on the side is just an AF-MF switch. When it came to flare, I've got a bright sunny day, I'm doing a lot of shots into the sun or with the sun off in the corner, and I'm getting a little bit of ghosting in the far corner, but again, just impressive all around. Unlike, unfortunately, Jordan's Pentax 16-45 f4, wants to shoot on, brutal. When it comes to sun stars, I will say I like this lens better at the wide angle than at the telephoto range, but how would I describe them? Vibrant, but messy. The autofocus speed on this lens is as quick as you'd want it to be. Symbic says they're just using one small, compact lens element for focusing so the motor can easily drive it and it's very quick. I think you're actually like this lens for cinema work. Very little breathing at 70mm, a little bit more at 28, but overall well controlled, and it's got that nice manual focus dampening. So far, I'm really enjoying this lens, but I know what you guys want to see is the image quality results. So we're going to take some more samples, head home, evaluate them on the computer, and see if this lens is a keeper or if it's worth throwing in the trash. We've now switched over to an external recorder, so we're going to get decent audio. But Jordan is living his own personal hell right now, and he really is so happy that you guys chose the K-01 as the camera for these next few episodes. But we've also had a chance to look at these images, evaluate them, and so let's get into talking about the image quality there. Okay, so let's talk about bokeh first. Let's get the bad news out of the way. I mean, it's not terrible, but we did notice a lot of cat's eye in the corners, and honestly, even to the center of the frame, shooting wide open, you would get kind of a football shape as you can see here, but stopping down helps a little bit. I mean, it doesn't make it completely go away, but otherwise the bokeh was actually really nice. I mean, you can see here that it's got a nice smooth look, not too bad for onion rings, little bit of stuff in there, but not too busy, and overall fairly nondescript and clean looking. I do also like that when we stop down a bit, the bokeh still has a nice round shape to it, and you know, overall I really enjoyed the way that it falls off from out of focus to in focus, and then from in focus to out of focus as well, as you can see here in the samples. So, you know, if you're looking for that thin depth of field look and the soft backgrounds, I think this lens will do a pretty good job for you. So this lens doesn't really have any major issues with chromatic aberration. Now when it comes to loca, that longitudinal chromatic aberration where you get that color fringe in the foreground and background out of focus, there was a little bit there. You can see it here in this example, but it wasn't terrible. Now we normally talk fairly briefly about distortion, but I really want to mention it here on this lens because honestly this is kind of bad news. First off, let's look at 28 millimeters. It's got some barrel distortion. You can see it here in this sample, the top and bottom edges bowing out. You're going to have to correct that. However, when we go to 70 millimeters, now you can see quite a bit of pincushion distortion where it kind of pushes away into the center. And again, you can see the top and bottom. So little correction is going to be needed. Now this is going to have some effect on your image quality, but keep in mind, it is pretty minor with today's modern software. Okay, sharpness next. Let's start at 70 millimeters, wide open at 2.8, focused in the center. Pretty good. I mean, you know, we are shooting on an A7R III, which is 42 megapixels, and you can see that we're getting a little bit of softness there at that aperture. I think if you're on a 24 megapixel camera, you wouldn't really notice it, but stopping down to f5.6 absolutely helps here. You can see that we get quite a bit nicer quality in the centers. So let's focus now on the corner sharpness. When we focus specifically in the corner at 70 mil upper right here at 2.8, it still looks pretty soft. I could not get those to really sharpen up. Even stopping down to 5.6, they're still pretty off. So that's unfortunate at 70 millimeters. Now we go to 28 millimeters. I do actually like the performance on the lens a little bit better as far as corners go. Shooting at 28 millimeters here first, focused in the center at 2.8. Very acceptable sharpness, no problem. We get a little bit of improvement when we go to f5.6, as you can see here. When we focus in the corners, again, they're not amazing, especially wide open at 2.8. They're better than at 70 millimeters. Stopping down to 5.6 does help to get us a nice flat field across the whole area in focus. So I think if you were shooting landscapes and you're willing to stop down, of course, shooting f8 or f11, I think you'll be perfectly pleased with the results. So Sigma has certainly created a very compact, small 2.8 zoom, and a lot of people are going to love that. I feel like this lens stopped down is a really nice performer, but wide open, it really depends. I could see you doing portraits here at 2.8, especially because it has really nice out of focus rendition, and I like the bokeh, and corners aren't really an issue for portraits. In fact, you don't want razor sharpness anyways for a lot of portrait situations. But there are other camera lenses on the market that compete here. I mean, if we're talking Sony E-mount, you also have the excellent Tamron 28-75 2.8. Very similar focal length, same kind of light and aperture. And although the bokeh on that lens is a little distracting, otherwise we found it to be an excellent performer. I do, however, like the way that this Sigma lens focuses. It's very quick and silent, so for family portraits and travel, this might be a good option for you. Now, for Sony E-mount or L-mount, I think if you can afford the extra bit of money and you're okay with the larger bulk and size, I think the Sigma 24-70 2.8 is an excellent performer, will give you much nicer results. If you can swing the higher price tag and the heavier weight, I think that's the way that I would go. But if you want the lightest, most compact lens available, well, as long as you're okay with the compromises, this lens might still work for you. So as usual, we have a sample gallery. You can see the link below in the description. But keep in mind, we also have sample galleries on the Tamron 28-75 2.8 and the Sigma 24-70 2.8 as well. So you can do your own comparisons and see which one's going to work best for you. Head to dpreview.com to find those. Otherwise, let us know what you think about the Pentax K-01 image quality. I'm sure you're loving it. I know Jordan is loving his experience with this camera setup. So leave those comments below as well. Otherwise, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys soon as usual.